Welcome to HardScript.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I came home to find her scrolling on the couch, half listening to a podcast about emotional maturity. She didn't even look up when I sat down beside her. I reached for her hand. She pulled it away, barely whispering, "You act like a kid when you want intimacy." Then she laughed, that small, dismissive laugh people make when they know exactly how deep they've just cut you. My name's Adam Keller, 38, project manager. I don't chase drama, I manage chaos for a living. But that night, something in me went completely still. I didn't argue, didn't defend myself, just nodded once, stood up, and said nothing. That silence was the start of everything. We'd been together 4 years, living in a townhouse near Denver. At first, it was electric. Same humor, same late-night playlists, same stubborn streaks. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. She started keeping her phone face down, started working late more often, started treating my affection like a weakness instead of a bond. That night, after her little joke about me acting like a kid, I walked into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and just stood there. The refrigerator hummed. The silence felt heavier than it should have. I could have argued, told her how for months I'd been trying to hold things together, how she'd been emotionally miles away, but I didn't. I just let the quiet settle between us. By morning, I had my plan. No more talking, no more chasing, no more explaining. I moved through the house like a shadow. Ate breakfast without a word. Left for work without a goodbye. That's the thing about silence. It unnerves people. It forces them to listen to their own thoughts. Day 1, she tried sarcasm. Day 2, she tried small talk, pretending nothing was wrong. I gave her nothing. By day 3, she caved, sent a selfie in her favorite white tank top with the caption, "Miss this?" I looked at the photo for a long time. She thought she could bait me with nostalgia, with the same thing she'd used to keep me hooked for years, attention disguised as affection. I didn't reply. That's when she realized something had changed. Because the man who once waited for her scraps of affection was gone. And the silence she used to weaponize was now mine. She didn't take the silence well. By the end of the 3rd day, the house felt like a psychological experiment. Every door slam, every forced laugh from the other room. It was all a test to see if I'd react. I didn't. I came home, cooked my dinner, cleaned my plate, and went to bed without a word. I could feel her eyes on me from the hallway, waiting for me to crack. But the thing about silence is, it teaches discipline. And I'd had years of practice managing chaos without breaking. By the 5th day, she started reaching out in small ways. A coffee mug on the counter next to mine. A folded shirt she said I'd left on the chair. It was all camouflage for guilt, dressed up as kindness. I kept my answers short, measured, calm. One night, she placed her phone face up on the counter while she cooked. That was new. Notifications lighting up like warning flares. I didn't even glance. Let her wonder. Inside, I wasn't angry anymore. Anger's too loud. I was studying her instead. The way she fidgeted when I didn't respond. The way her confidence cracked the longer I stayed silent. I could see it, control slipping through her fingers. The woman who once dictated the rhythm of our relationship was now reacting to mine. And the more I withdrew, the louder her need for attention became. That Friday, she came home late. I was already sitting on the porch, beer in hand, watching the neighborhood quiet down. She walked past me like nothing was wrong, pretending confidence. But her hands trembled when she reached for the door. She stopped and said something about how distant I'd been, how communication goes both ways. I didn't answer, just nodded once and took another sip. That night, her phone lit up again while she was in the shower. The same number, same half-smiling text preview I'd seen before. This time, I screenshotted it, forwarded it to my private email, and deleted the thread before she came out. Not out of spite, out of clarity. I didn't need proof for a fight. I needed proof for closure. When she came to bed, she reached for me. I stayed still. That was when her voice broke for the first time. She whispered, "You're scaring me with this silence." But I wasn't trying to scare her. I was just done negotiating my worth in a language she no longer respected. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. She was still asleep, tangled in the sheets like a stranger. I stood there for a moment, watching the person I used to know, trying to remember when exactly love turned into strategy. I brewed coffee, packed my things for work, and left without saying a word. Silence wasn't just revenge anymore. It had become a mirror, showing both of us who we really were when the noise stopped. At the office, my team noticed the change. I wasn't the guy checking my phone between meetings anymore. No text updates. No missed calls. Just focus. I dove into work, long hours, clean numbers, predictable systems, everything my relationship wasn't. My coworker Ryan joked that I looked like a man training for a marathon. In a way, I was. A mental one. By the end of the week, she sent another message. This one wasn't a selfie. It was a photo of the dinner table set for two. My favorite meal. No caption, just the image. I stared at it for a few seconds before locking my phone and going back to my spreadsheet. She wanted me to break the silence, to restore her sense of control. But what she didn't realize was that silence had given me perspective. That weekend, she changed tactics again. Flowers in the kitchen. A bottle of wine I'd bought months ago sitting on the counter. She started humming around the house, pretending peace had returned. But underneath it, I could feel the tension, the quiet panic of someone realizing their old tricks didn't work anymore. Every attempt at affection was strategic, every gesture rehearsed. Sunday night, I checked the cloud storage where I'd backed up the screenshot of that text. The man's name wasn't saved, just a number. A quick reverse lookup confirmed what I'd suspected, someone from her gym. Married. I didn't print it, didn't confront her. I just archived it in a folder labeled proof. She came into the living room later, sat next to me on the couch, and leaned her head on my shoulder. For a moment, it almost felt like before. But I didn't move. I'd already learned the difference between peace and performance. She whispered something about missing how we used to be. I stayed silent. Because this time, silence wasn't punishment, it was distance. And I wasn't crossing it again. Monday came, and with it, a strange calm. She was quiet too now, like she'd finally realized something was slipping away that couldn't be patched with dinner invitations or late-night apologies. The silence between us had turned into a boundary, one I didn't plan to cross again. I noticed small changes in her. The way she hesitated before speaking. The way she lingered at the door when I left for work, like she was waiting for me to say something that would reset everything. I didn't. That evening, I came home to find her sitting on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen. The room smelled like her perfume, too strong, like she was trying to create a memory that didn't fit anymore. There was a bottle of wine open, 2 glasses half poured. She looked up and said something about how she missed us. The words sounded mechanical, rehearsed. I told her I needed space. She nodded, but her eyes gave her away. Fear, disbelief, confusion. For years, she'd been the one holding the emotional remote control. Now she didn't even know which channel we were on. The next morning, I moved a few of my things into the guest room. Not as a statement, but as preparation. I didn't need drama. I needed distance. She didn't ask why. Maybe she already knew. I spent the next few nights there, sleeping better than I had in months. No whispered accusations, no guilt disguised as conversation. Just quiet. By midweek, she started to break. The selfies came again, this time more desperate, trying to remind me what I was missing. But desire without trust is just marketing. I deleted them without opening the images fully. Then came the messages about how cold I'd become, how men don't just stop caring overnight. She was wrong about that. Men stop caring exactly when they realize they're being managed, not loved. That Friday, I met with my lawyer friend, Brandon. Just coffee, no papers yet. I asked him hypothetically what steps a person would take if they wanted to prepare for separation quietly, without confrontation. He didn't ask questions, just gave me the list. I followed it methodically. By the time I left that cafe, I knew one thing for sure. Silence wasn't revenge anymore. It was strategy. By the weekend, she started to notice small things missing. Documents from the office drawer, a few personal files from the shared computer, the folder with our insurance papers. Nothing dramatic. Just pieces of a life being quietly reorganized. She asked if I'd seen the paperwork. I said I'd moved it for safekeeping. That was true, just not for her safety anymore. The silence between us became a kind of currency. The more I withheld, the more valuable it became. I wasn't trying to punish her. I was collecting clarity. Every time she reached for my attention, she was really trying to confirm that she still had power. But the truth was, she'd lost it the moment she mocked what I once offered her freely. Intimacy isn't just physical. It's trust, consistency, patience. She treated all that like a chore. Sunday morning, I woke up early and went for a drive. The roads were empty, cold light cutting through the trees. I stopped at a diner outside the city and sat there for an hour with a notebook. I wrote 3 words at the top of the page: observe, prepare, exit. That was the mission. No yelling, no grand speeches. Just clean execution. When I came home, she was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone again. I caught a glimpse of the same contact name that had appeared in her texts before. Same number, same initials. She turned the screen away quickly, pretending it was nothing. But her face gave her away, flush, defensive. I didn't react. That was the power of silence. It forced truth out into the open without a single word. That night, she finally tried to talk. She said she was worried about me, that I seemed different. I told her I was fine. I told her I'd just been thinking. She asked if I still loved her. I said love doesn't disappear, it changes form. Then I went back to my room. When the door closed behind me, I realized something simple and devastating. She thought this was a game I was playing to win her back. But I wasn't playing anymore. The silence wasn't a tactic. It was a transition. And once you cross that line, you don't come back. Monday morning, I called the bank from my office. Quiet, routine questions. Account access, savings balance, joint credit activity. Nothing alarming in my tone, but I was listening for signs of movement. There it was, new purchases, transferred amounts that didn't match our usual spending pattern. Small, careful withdrawals. It wasn't about the money. It was about control. She was testing how far she could pull before I noticed. I didn't react. I let her think I hadn't seen. At lunch, I called Brandon again. This time, less hypothetical. We talked about steps to separate assets quietly. He told me which forms to request, which accounts to secure, how to change access permissions without triggering suspicion. His voice was calm, methodical. That's what I needed. No emotion, just direction. By the time I got off the phone, the plan was clear: freeze exposure, consolidate proof, prepare to walk away clean. When I got home that night, she was sitting on the porch, pretending to read. The same posture she used when she wanted to lure me into talking. She said something about missing how things used to be, about how she just wanted us to feel normal again. I nodded once, told her I was tired, and walked inside. She followed, of course. The silence had turned into a threat she couldn't disarm. Later, she tried the oldest tactic in the book: nostalgia. She played the song we used to dance to in the kitchen. She even wore the same shirt she'd sent in that first selfie, the one caption, "Miss this." But something about it felt wrong now. Like watching a rerun of a show you used to love but can't stand anymore because you know how it ends. I went upstairs without a word. She stayed in the kitchen, wine glass clinking against the counter. I could hear her pacing after midnight, frustrated that her charm wasn't working anymore. What she didn't understand was that silence doesn't need to shout to be powerful. It just needs time. By morning, I'd moved more of my essentials into the truck: documents, personal drives, clothes. Not to leave yet, but to be ready. Because when silence becomes your weapon, timing is everything. And I wasn't planning to strike loud. I was planning to vanish. The next few days passed like a drill: structured, deliberate, controlled. Every morning I left before sunrise. Every night I returned after dark. She started calling it the ghost phase. Said it with a smile, but her voice shook when she did. She tried to provoke me into reacting, to pull me back into her rhythm. But I wasn't living by her tempo anymore. Silence had its own pace, and it was working. On Wednesday, she finally broke her pattern. No makeup, no rehearsed tone. Just quiet desperation in her eyes. She said she didn't understand what was happening, that she was scared I was slipping away. For the first time in weeks, I looked at her, not as my partner, but as a stranger occupying the same space. She said she wanted to fix things, that we could start over. I told her I wasn't interested in repairs, only closure. Her face fell. She asked if there was someone else. I told her yes, peace. After that, things accelerated. She started digging through my drawers, checking my messages, trying to catch me in something that would justify her guilt. But she found nothing. I'd scrubbed every trace of my life clean. No evidence, no emotion, no argument. Just the quiet efficiency of someone who'd already made peace with the outcome. That weekend, I drove to the storage unit I'd rented a week earlier. Moved a few more boxes, photo albums, personal files, keepsakes from a life that no longer fit. I kept one picture. Us on the pier in Santa Barbara, smiling like we had no idea how fragile everything really was. I folded it into my wallet, not as a memory, but as proof that love had once existed before it rotted. When I came home, she was waiting with takeout, and that same forced optimism she used to wear after every argument. She said she'd made a mistake, that she'd been confused, that she wanted to earn my trust again. I let her talk. Every word was a plea disguised as reason. When she was done, I just said I'd think about it. That night, I drafted the separation letter. Straightforward, factual, emotionless. No accusations, no drama. Just an ending written in the same quiet tone I'd carried since the day she called me childish for wanting closeness. Because if silence had taught me anything, it was this: sometimes the loudest revenge is leaving quietly and never looking back. By Thursday, the house felt like an echo chamber, every sound amplified, every silence stretched thin. She was moving through the motions now, performing normal life like an actress after the play's already closed. Breakfasts appeared on the table, laundry folded neatly, her perfume filling the hallways. But beneath it all was tension, like she could sense something coming but didn't know when it would hit. That's the beauty of quiet planning. When people can't hear your footsteps, they mistake your calm for indecision. I'd already arranged everything. The new place, a small one-bedroom apartment across town. Paid in cash, no trace back to our joint account. The essentials were packed in my truck, locked and ready. My bank accounts were separated, my personal email moved to private storage. I even changed my emergency contact at work. Every detail handled. I wasn't preparing to leave. I was prepared. That evening, she found the draft of the separation letter on my desk. I'd left it there intentionally. She came into the guest room, holding the papers with shaking hands. She asked if I was serious, if I was really ready to throw away everything we built. I told her I wasn't throwing anything away. I was just done trying to fix something she'd already set on fire. She started crying, said she'd do anything to make things right. But you can't rebuild trust after you've mocked it. She tried to pull the old strings, sent another photo, softer this time. No makeup, captioned, "I miss us." I looked at it for maybe 3 seconds before deleting it. The irony was almost poetic. The same woman who once called me childish for wanting intimacy was now begging for the very connection she'd dismissed. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, listening to the clock tick, watching shadows move across the walls. Every tick sounded like a countdown. When dawn came, I stood, grabbed my bag, and walked to the door. She heard it open and came rushing out, eyes red, pleading for one more chance. I didn't say anything. I didn't even look back. The door closed behind me with a quiet click. No shouting, no final words. Just silence, the same silence that started it all. Only this time, it wasn't punishment. It was freedom. The first morning on my own, I woke up to quiet that wasn't heavy anymore. Just still. The kind of silence that doesn't demand anything from you. I made coffee in the small apartment kitchen and watched the sun rise through half-open blinds. There was no phone buzzing, no half-hearted apologies, no tension hiding in every breath. Just the steady sound of the coffee maker and the slow rhythm of my own thoughts. For the first time in years, I felt peace. She called twice that day. I didn't answer. The voicemails came next, first confusion, then anger, then regret. She said I was being childish, dramatic, unfair. The same words she used when she wanted control back. But the thing about silence is that it doesn't negotiate. It doesn't explain itself. It just moves forward, one calm step at a time. That weekend, she showed up at my new place. I hadn't told her the address, but she'd found it anyway. Old habits die hard. She stood at the door, eyes swollen, clutching her phone like it held her last chance. She said she realized how much she'd taken for granted, that she'd been lost in her own head, that she wanted to make things right. Her voice trembled in all the right places, but it was too polished, too familiar. I'd seen this act before. The tears, the timing, the desperate promises of change. I let her talk until she ran out of words. Then I said the only sentence I'd rehearsed in my head for days. I don't hate you. I just don't belong here anymore. She froze, as if she couldn't understand the simplicity of it. Because for her, everything was always a performance, a win or a loss. But I wasn't playing to win. I was done keeping score. When she finally walked away, I didn't feel relief or triumph, just quiet understanding. I'd spent years mistaking attention for affection, confusion for passion, apology for change. But standing there, watching her car pull away, I realized something simple. You don't lose someone who was never really with you. You just stop pretending they were. That night, I deleted her number, archived every message, and closed the last open door to that chapter. Silence had finished what words never could. It ended the noise for good. A month passed before I heard from her again. This time, it wasn't a call, it was a letter. Handwritten, neat, deliberate. She said she finally understood what I'd been trying to tell her with my silence, that I wasn't punishing her, but protecting myself. She wrote about therapy, reflection, growth. She said she wished she'd listened sooner. I read it twice, then folded it back into the envelope and set it aside. I didn't feel anger or nostalgia, just finality. Life had taken on a different rhythm. Mornings at the gym, evenings spent walking along the river. I'd started photographing again, something I'd stopped doing years ago. There was something cleansing about capturing stillness, the kind that doesn't ask for attention but just exists. People at work said I seemed lighter, calmer. I told them I'd started sleeping better. That was true. Sometimes, late at night, I'd catch myself thinking about her. Not the woman she'd become, but the one I'd first met. The version before the mockery, before the games. I didn't miss her, but I remembered her. There's a difference. Memories aren't chains unless you let them be. One evening, I saw her by accident at a grocery store. She was standing in line, looking down at her phone. Different haircut, new expression, some mix of humility and exhaustion. She looked up, saw me, froze for a moment, then smiled faintly. Not the kind of smile that asks for another chance, but one that acknowledges the truth. I nodded once, then turned to leave. That was enough. Driving home, I thought about how quiet the world had become around me. Not empty, just balanced. The kind of quiet you earn after you've stopped chasing explanations. Because in the end, that's what silence really is, not absence, but control. A decision to stop feeding chaos. When I pulled into the driveway of my new place, I sat there for a while, engine off, listening to nothing. No phone, no voice trying to pull me back. Just peace, the kind I'd built from the ground up. Some people fight back loud. Some walk away without a sound. Me? I rebuilt my life one quiet morning at a time. And when the silence finally spoke for me, it said everything she never wanted to hear. I'm free. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories.